These are the certification trainings what we offer in terms of professional training services, PFMP, PGMP, ACP, PMI SP, PMI RMP, and PMP is our flagship program. And these are the technology training services, the training what we offer on terms of Power BI, Project Online, CCPM, Primavera, all the Primavera Suites products. And this is the speaker. So he's with us, Mr. B. Krishnamurthy, fondly called as BKM in the industry. He's an industry vector, over 37 years of experience, and he served as a business and center head at Wipro Hyderabad. So he's a certified coach from CFI, change management practitioner from APMG UK, certified conversational intelligence coach, PMP and PFMP from PMI USA. He has also authored 4 books. He's a subject matter expert with Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India for e-governance, designed and developed programs for senior IAS officers and on e-governance. His experience includes coaching of several functional and department heads. He's the recipient of Hindu Hitachi Scholarship, IT Professional of the Year Award in Hyderabad, etc. He lives in Coimbatore. He specializes in designing specific training programs for industry leaders and delivers them. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us today. So before we get into a session, we have a small directions for the participants. It is going to be a 2-hour session, 6 to 8. So first 90 minutes, the speaker will present his views and thoughts and presentation. And we will have a dedicated Q&A session. So in between, if anyone wants to ask any questions to the speaker, you can raise your hand, and there are different emoticons here. So you can click, or you can you can write in chat. So we will inform the speaker and he will address your queries. And this webinar carries 2 PDUs. So after the session, you will be submitting a feedback form wherein you will have to mention the PMI ID, and we will claim the PDUs for you. And you will also be awarded with a certificate for this webinar. So that would be sent to you through your mail. So anyone, if you are hard pressed and have to leave in between in the session, we will paste the feedback link in the chat. So you can give your feedback and go forward, so that you will be receiving your certificate, and also it's easy for us to claim your PDUs, and we request you to give your feedback as well about the sessions. So once again, we thank you all for joining with us. So I'll hand over the session to BKM, sir. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very nice of you to have done a good introduction. Thank you very much, and thanks to Srinivasan for inviting me to be part of this. He's a very long time friend from my Hyderabad days, way back in late 90s, early 2000s onwards. I must also tell now that the PFMP certification, we were the first batch, and the catalyst for me to be part of the first batch was Srinivasan himself. So we sat for the exam in the same batch when the PFMP certification opened up. So it goes back, the credit goes to Srinivasan for pulling me there. And I'm very happy to be part of this now. So I will share the screen, and then we'll start getting into the session per se. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is about the topic is about conversational intelligence. So yeah, we will start decoding what is this actually all about. Before I go and talk about the objectives and coverage, I was talking about this to Srinivasan before the session began. Maybe some of you were there. It was a repeat for you. This topic I came across sometime in 2016, early 17. When I was going through some research, I found out that there was a book written by a person called Judith Glaser on conversational intelligence. So I ordered the book in Amazon, and it was not available in India at that time. It was shipped from the US. It took almost 4 weeks for me to get the book. When I read it, I found it very interesting. Then subsequently, again, by God's grace, I think I got a mail from somewhere where I was a part of a forum that they were doing a certification on this conversational intelligence. That was somewhere in 2017 middle or 2018 beginning. Then I registered for the course. It is pretty costly. It went on for 16 months. And it had 3 levels. I went through the complete certification. And we were actually taught by Judith Glaser, who is the founder of this domain in a way. She is no more now. She passed away during halfway through the program. But it was completed by her husband as well as her own prodigies who were trained by her. And then the certification process was very tough. At the end of it, there was a what do you call a project or a dissertation which was supposed to be submitted based on how we internalized the learnings. And that was evaluated by a panel of experts from global experts. And then we were given the certification. So I have, amongst the certifications I went through, this was very different for 2 reasons. One, the topic is looking very curious and intriguing. The second one is the process of evaluation itself was very different. They didn't specify what. They said, you tell us how you internalized this. So it was pretty open, and we had to find our own ways of doing it. And they didn't pass everybody. They passed only a percentage of people who submitted it. And subsequently, they corrected something more. So that way, fortunately, I've been able to go through it, and I'm happy about it. And I'm happy to share some of those things in this forum. So the objectives of this session are to give an overview. What I went through for about 16, 17 months cannot be done in 1 hour. But what is going to be given is an overview, at least to interest you further. The most important part here is the connection between conversations and neuroscience, connection between what we talk and how our brain reacts. And then give some sample tools and techniques, what can be covered during this session. The coverage is introduction and overview, how the conversation is, how the dimensions span out, and how this is connected with the neuroscience, some samples, okay? What will be the takeaway? You will understand how to converse better in terms of getting results, maybe avoid certain points which we are already used to, and moderate and balance the conversation with others. And then we avoid conversational blind spots. We will actually talk about what are the blind spots which we all go through, and how to maintain conversational agility and be a better communicator at it. If I tell the amount of material they shared with us as part of the course, I still belong to the category of people who would like to see it in print. So I downloaded all of them and printed it, and I spiral bound based on the classifications. So when I stack it up, it will come to something like 2.5 feet height, 2.5 feet height it will come to. It's a huge lot of material they have given. So much of research has gone into this. Simple, obviously an easy topic generally, but there are too many things which are behind the screen. What I have written here, what I have put here is what has been the famous quote of Judith Glaser: conversations are the way we connect, engage, navigate, and transform the world with others. She uses the word transform the world with others, and there is a reason for it. If you go to the next level of peeling the onion, let me go from bottom up here. The way we converse changes the relationship with people. The way we have relationship amongst a lot of people around us, it develops a culture. So when the culture is good, we attain greatness. So if you come from top down, getting to the next level of greatness depends on quality of culture, which depends on quality of relationship, which again depends on quality of conversations. So ultimately, the bottom line is everything happens through conversations, which is very, very true. A lot of us communicate carelessly, carefully, intentionally, unintentionally. Some words used, some phrases used, or the tone changes, they create a world of difference. How do we navigate through this path is what we are going to go through. See, if you look at conversations, this is what we engage with. All our navigation of relationship happens through them. It is also building trust and empathy. What we communicate with people builds trust and empathy. Sometimes unhealthy conversations lead to distrust, deceit, the opposite of whatever I said in the second bullet. So finally, coming to conversational intelligence, what are we talking about? This is a registered trademark of the institute where she is a founder. Judith Glaser is a founder. So this is born out of decades of research on brain science and conversations. What we speak creates brain reactions. These brain reactions create neurochemicals. They are called as neurochemicals. These neurochemicals have the ability to change the way we respond, change our body conditions. It can also change the way we perceive the other person. So that is where the work gets a lot of importance. And this CIQ, they call it as CIQ, Conversational Intelligence Quotient, provides a framework and practice for individuals to approach, listen, engage, and architect and influence the moment of conversations with people. And it also gives the power to influence the other person through the neurochemistry. This is the whole interesting part which actually hooked me into this. And after going through this course, I have registered myself for several courses like this. And I have started reading a lot of things about neurochemistry, the way our brain works. The whole lot of information available around this is amazing. And the more and more we read and understand, the more and more we know that at least how ill-equipped we are, at least I am, in terms of understanding or dealing with this. Let us look at this brain, how it operates. I will spend little time on this. I would like you to pay a little closer attention to this. We are not getting into what you call anatomy of a brain, but whatever is related to our management thinking and leadership behavior, I would like to focus. So the brain is divided into 6 parts. First part is called prefrontal cortex, that is the forehead. Then there is something called the limbic brain. Then we have a gut brain, then heart brain. This is where we have affection, love, empathy, and all that. Then primitive brain, the old one, which was known as that is why it is called as primitive brain. And neocortex is the other portion, which is at the back of our head. So let us look at this prefrontal cortex. What does this PFC do? PFC is actually the motivation factor. It also helps in decision making and planning. Okay, it is also part of construction of emotions. So in a way, this prefrontal cortex decides and kind of commands the way we behave with people. It is the one which directs us from the way we interact with others. I'm using the word interact intentionally. I'm not saying reacting or responding, because it depends on what comes into us and how we behave with them. Then we come to the other side, where we talk about the memory portion, then emotional part, and then dopamine part, which is our adrenaline and the kind of chemicals which excrete there. That is the limbic brain. The gut brain is the awareness. This is what we call it as our gut feeling. That is coming from this, which is actually kind of intuition in some sense. That is where it goes to the awareness part. Then comes our heart brain, which deals with the love and affection part, which is breathing and hunger connected with our physiological activities. And then you have the neocortex, where it talks about all these things, arousal, this is the chemical which is, serotonin is the chemical which is excreted there. And it also takes care of the vision, navigation, and all that. But the main point, what we need to understand, is part of this prefrontal cortex. Let me go to the, remove this clutter here, and I'll go to the next part where it is easier to understand. Here, the prefrontal cortex takes care of regulating the oxytocin. Oxytocin is the name of the chemical. We don't need to know the name and details of it. It is enough to know that it is a positive feeling. It is a positive behavior, positive emotion. It creates us to appreciate thinking differently, sharing, discovering, developing, celebrating, all these things. This is what we call it as we-centric world. It is not you, it is not me, it is actually the we-centric world. Let us find a solution. Let us get on together with this. Okay, so what can we do about it? So the language of this person who is using this prefrontal cortex, if you look at the leaders, they always say and see everybody together as a part of it. That is this prefrontal cortex. Exact opposite of this is the backyard of the brain. They excrete the chemical called cortisol. Cortisol is a chemical which creates exclusion, judging, limiting, and then dictating terms, criticizing. Oh, you are not good enough. What you did is not right. Oh, I told you long back, you never listened to me. So this you and me becomes part of this cortisol stuff. And surprisingly, they found out that the cortisol shelf life of cortisol is 27 hours. That means, assuming we had a bad conversation with somebody and there was a fearful exchange of words between the two people, both of them at the end of the conversation part ways, and both of them will be thinking about that bad exchange for 27 hours approximately. This is the average period. It could vary for 20 hours, 15 hours, 17 hours. It could be 3 days sometimes. And when you look back and think about it, we don't forget those bad moments for longer time. And the more and more we have such exchanges, and the more and more the shelf life of this, and the more and more that cortisol is going to excrete, it is going to damage the body, damage the brain, damage the body, damage the reactions, what we come up with. All of that happens because of this cortisol. On the other hand, people use this regulating the oxytocin, saying that, yeah, you have done a great job. I appreciate you for doing whatever you have done. I know you are doing well. You made a mistake, it's fine, but I'm sure you know what you should not do next time. Such kind of words create this oxytocin. So this is what is the crux of the entire thing. Whatever we are going to talk about depends on these two things. No, I'm oversimplifying it for the sake of understanding, but there is a lot to it. But at least for the sake of this understanding, it is good enough to know about this. Now let us come to the tools. I'm going directly into the tools, into the actual world of what we do and how we do it. They exposed us to a lot of tools which have come out of a series of research works done across the continents, starting from Europe to West in the US and to even East in Japan and all that. There were a lot of teams working on it, and each one of them have come up with something, and then doing linkage between the brain research and the leadership behavior, linking the neuroscience findings with the leadership aspects of strategy, execution, the whole lot of things around that. They have come up with a lot of tools, a lot of easy to remember and easy to apply tools in our daily life. Let me digress a bit here. Judith Glaser, as she was doing this research, she has collaborated with multiple disciplines of research, both in behavioral research as well as organizational behavior research, and then neuroscientists and people who are doing research on deformities of brain and then the vagaries of brain and things like that. So she has put together a lot of this work in the form of a framework, and these framework have been developed into a tool, and these tools are what we are going to talk about. So one of them is called as Conversational Intelligence Dashboard, a CIQ dashboard. Then there is something called as Conversational Intelligence Matrix. We will talk about each of them. And then there are a lot of other tools, priming for test, blind spots in conversation, and then minute tools like at the lowest level, listening to connect, conversational agility, ladder of conclusions, regulating up and down. All these things are various tools available for us to use in our conversations. The most important part would be, let us say, understanding conversational dashboard. Let us get into that. So this is how the conversational dashboard looks like. You will see that at the back of me in the screen as well. I liked it so much. You can see that here, the back. I liked it so much, I actually printed it and pasted it the back because I wanted to keep seeing it all the time. It is also a reminder for me how I should keep my conversations. Let us understand it quickly, and I will explain this a little more in detail in the next slide. So on the leftmost part is I-centric world, that it's me, I, me, myself. So whatever I do is right. I am the boss. I am right always. I can't go wrong. That is the kind of thinking here. The other extreme is we-centric world. Let us find it together. Let us find a solution for this. Let us work together to solve this. That is this. So in between these two lies the rest of the conversation. So in our conversations, how do we build the trust? Whenever we say I can take care of it, it is actually boiling down to protecting our environment because we want to be in our familiar territory. We also exhibit bit of low trust. I don't trust you. I'm not ready to give it away to you fully. It is also a resistance being exhibited here. So as we move further slightly onto the spectrum, there is a skeptic. From skeptic, we go to wait and see. There is a conditional trust. I am okay, but I still want to hold my final word. I am ready, but I want to see how you do it. That is this conditional trust. Then from there, we go into the experimentation mode, where we are letting go lot of things, but still we are holding something. And then finally, we go to the situation where there is a high trust, which means let us sit together and co-create. No holds, nothing is holding us between to do the work. Let us work together. You and I are part of the same team. Forget about my role, forget about my position, forget about who I am, but we are together on this. That is this co-creation phase. Co-creation is different from collaboration. If you say collaboration is 1 + 1 is 2, co-creation is 1 + 1 is 11. So co-creation is synergy. Collaboration is addition. That is the difference between co-creation and collaboration. So let me go to the explaining the part of the behavior and the mindset. For reference, quick reference, I have pasted the dashboard here. So the resistor is at the left end. The resistor's mindset is, I am not feeling in alignment with what you are saying. I am not happy to be aligned with this, and I have my own reservations in being part of this. I will be there as an outsider. I'll see how it is progressing, and then I will get into it. That is the mindset of these people. How do they behave? They have strong emotions. They are not ready to get influenced. They hold themselves tight. And you can see their behavior. When you see them in the meeting, they'll sit tight like this, keeping their hands folded. And they sit back. They don't come forward. These are all actually the neurochemical reactions creating the body behavior. Skeptic, they are slightly out of alignment. They have doubts about whether it will work or not. So their behavior will be more of doubtful orientation and judgmental. Yeah, I know people have tried it, it has not worked. So they get into judgment. I know it will not work. I know a better solution. So they get into that skeptic mode. The wait and see, they are ready. They have lifted their one leg, are ready to walk across the path, but they are not yet fully there. They want to wait and see whether it works or not. They are something like cat on the wall. Okay. They are tentative. They are unable to decide by themselves. They are not able to make up their mind. Then comes this experimenter. They are at the right end, but not yet fully at the right end. They are ready to try. They have the desire. They have the willingness, but they have to gather their courage still more further. And then they have to put in little more trust. So little more of whatever they have, if they put it, they will be on to the co-creator mode. Co-creator is the ultimate. They create a new meaning for the entire interaction, conversation, experiment, whatever you call it. They bring in new meaning to the whole relationship. They are willing to transform the reality with others in a we-centric manner. I mean, this says all of it. So ultimately, moving from this I-centric world to we-centric world depends upon how we behave. How we behave is dependent upon how we are set in our mind. How we are set in our mind is dependent upon how the conversation is driven. So ultimately, the whole thing is driven by the way we conduct the conversation. So this is one important, very important concept I thought I should share at this point in time. Moving further, this is the second major concept I would like to share. So in conversations, there are 3 levels. The first level is transactional conversation. These transactional conversations, it is more of a tell and ask syndrome. I tell you, you do it. I ask you, you give me. That is all. And here we are not in any experimenting mode, discovery mode, or exploratory mode. Here we are more of, I know this, I am doing this. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So this is the transaction. This is something like, what time is the train? When is the next class? What are you doing? So direct question, closed-ended questions for which closed-ended answers. This is more of, if I have to take an example, like a governmental setup, you know, you ask, you get it, and that's it, nothing more, nothing less. Then comes the second level. In the second level, you advocate and inquire. You basically tell them what to do. We persuade them what to do. So this is the scenario with mostly with boss and subordinate scenario. When the boss says, I'll tell you, you do it. I want you to come back and ask me all these things. So they get into that mode is the positional conversation. The third level is transformational conversation. Transformational conversation is co-creating. This is the third level this is the third level, and this is the co-creator level at the right extreme. Here we are talking about sharing and discovering. What I mean by share, I have this information, I share it with you. I'm not waiting for you to share your information. I share it first, create the setting that you have to share with me. Then once you share, we try to discover it together. We want to find a solution together. I have this information, I put it on the table, you put your information on the table, we figure it out how to do it better, and how can we take it to the next higher level. That is this transformational conversation. Most of the times, when you look at our client meetings, okay, project level conversations happen at this. What is the deliverable next week? Have you put in all the points which has been covered in the scope? That is a transactional conversation. This happens at the project team member level between two entities. It can be project organization of the service provider and project organization of the client organization. That is the transactional level. Probably at a project manager level, that is what positional scenario is, where I tell you, you do it, and that is where it ends. So why lot of projects face difficulty is they center around these two scenarios. The moment the client engagement manager goes to the third level, the SAM, or let us say the client engagement manager or the account manager or the key account manager takes the conversation to the transformational level, then we are talking about discovery of new areas. I can draw from my own example. I was a strategic account manager for Ericsson after we did the merger and acquisition in 2003-2005 in Wipro. It was a 3 million account. In 2 years, we took that 3 million account to 9 million account. That was basically possible because I was allowed to try. I mean, organization gave me the blank check to travel whichever country I wanted to go and whichever division I wanted to meet in Ericsson. So I was able to meet almost every continent I visited an Ericsson office, and we were able to open up new accounts, new engagements with almost all the Ericsson units of R&D. That was basically because we said we are a strategic partner for Ericsson, and this is what we have done. Please tell me where you need help. What are your pain points? Can we find a solution together? So sharing what we have done and discovering where their problems are, we were able to actually take the engagement to a next level. So in 2 years, we became 3 times in terms of the revenue. So that transformational conversation should happen probably at the account level, not at the program level or at the portfolio level. It has to happen. So the talks the CEOs and the divisional heads have, it should be at the transformational level. If they come down to positional and transactional level of what this project is doing or what that project is doing, we are doomed, in the sense that we will always be bothering about that project which is not going well, rather than talking about how can I increase my revenue or market share in the next quarter. So that is where this comes into picture. So I don't know whether I should stop here and take some questions before I go further, or how do you suggest, Srinivasan?
Maybe you can take 1 or 2 questions.
Yes.
I will make a beginning.
Yes.
So you talked about our brain different parts.
Yes.
Okay, which is, can I say, inherent characteristic of every person's structure.
Right.
And then in the next step, you talked about the two extremes of, let's say, the last topic in terms of transactional versus transformational.
Yes.
So now we should, now the going forward, is it something everyone is somewhere here, we need to move forward to that side, or how do we make adjustments to our conversation vis-a-vis our brain structure, how to activate one portion and how to control the other portion? Is it something like that? Because often now we are centering around me or us as one side with our brain, our nature of conversation. And also we all, when it comes to conversation, two persons at least minimum are involved. So now that person's brain structure and other things. So how do we navigate through that? Are you going to
Excellent point.
speak
Excellent
or?
question.
Yeah.
Excellent question. You are done with that, Srinivasan?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, excellent point, excellent point. See, though I said this in a generic term, our conversation with different individuals will be different. Okay, when we speak to our spouse, there is a particular orientation. When we speak to our children, there is a particular orientation. When I talk to the boss, there is a orientation. To my peer, there is a different orientation. To our team members and other people, there is a different orientation. This orientation is different for different people. So in some cases, we are in the front. In some cases, we are in the middle. In some cases, we are at the back. Okay. So how do we create alignment, all of them towards the front? Is it possible to be in the front for PFC only always? Prefrontal cortex always? It is difficult. Okay. There are some situations where we have to go to the back. There are some situations we have to go to the top, in the middle somewhere. Okay, that depends upon the situation, it depends on the person, it depends on the occasion. But as much as possible, we are oriented towards the right side of the system, we are better off. So that is the broad answer for your question.
Okay.
But to do that, we need to know where we are today. Our self-awareness with respect to each relationship is required. So we need to check what is the kind of word I'm using, what kind of reactions I get when I speak to somebody, what kind of words I choose to interact with this person versus that person. Based on all these things, we sit together, sit separately for about say 15 minutes and analyze that particular relationship. We will know whether I am on the right side or the left side.
Okay, understood.
So it is our self-discovery is the first part, and we have to be very true to us for discovery. If we try to cheat ourselves by saying that, no, I am always on prefrontal cortex, I tell you, we are making a gross mistake. We will never be in that mode. Okay. So we need to be a little bit careful about what we are doing, not beating ourselves saying that I'm always in cortisol mode. No, we are not in that mode. So we need to calibrate ourselves based on the relationship.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, Krishnamurthy sir, Ramana here.
Yes, Ramana.
Yeah, going back to this oxytocin release and the cortisol release happening in the brain, which are nothing but some chemicals being released into our system.
Right.
So what I understand is cortisol will be more harmful for the person, release of the cortisol.
Yes.
So I also recollect from where we have attended some yoga classes or meditation classes, where they say that doing meditation helps you to reduce the cortisol levels and improve your oxytocin levels. Is there any such prescription done in this course or something like that?
There is no prescription. They say they try to create that self-awareness. It is something like, you are absolutely right, Amana. In fact, thanks for bringing up this point.
Yes,
see, what happens with the cortisol, the moment the cortisol is generated, and then cortisol keeps getting generated every now and then, when a person keeps interacting, over a period of time, this cortisol creates acidity, it creates obesity, it creates the so-called lifestyle diseases for the individual. Okay. So we can very easily see they are very irritant. They are not collaborating. They are always in a frowning mode. And they are always, you can actually find out very quickly the person is having more cortisol. Okay. And they seem to be effective managers because they have a whip in their hand and they keep on getting things done only with the whip, which is actually harming them and harming the rest of the people. Next project he gets it, and if you ask the team member, will he continue with him or her? They will say, no, I will go to another project if there is a
Correct.
choice.
Yes.
Okay, so, but you are right. So it creates a chemical and it creates problem, and meditation can bring that cortisol secretion to a lower level and oxytocin to a larger level. What does that do? How does that procedure look like? It is basically centering our mind. It
Correct.
can be done by meditation. It can be done by yoga. It can be done by self-awareness. It can be done by intentional change of behavior. Okay.
Yes.
We have to change this terminology. Can we change from I to we? Can I listen to the person first before I react? Believe me, lot of people whom we see, as I am talking, that person is thinking what to answer next. Most of the times they'll say, wait a minute, and they'll jump into answering my question or putting a question to me before even completing my sentence. We do that
Yes.
most of the times. And
Yes.
another behavior I've seen is, even I have had that behavior in the past. When somebody is telling, I always think, how do I answer this person? What questions I will ask? What holes I can poke in his argument? We are always in that mode, which means we are somewhere at the back. We are not open here. So all this behavior creates cortisol and our alignment towards the negative side, the left side of the spectrum. That can be done by intentional listening, intentional change of behavior. And I'm sure we can go through that. I have actually attempted it, and I have been able to change a lot in my own style over the last maybe 20 years without knowing any of these things. But now when I know this and I realize, okay, I have done this or I have done that. And now I'm able to consciously practice these things when I'm interacting with people. Does that
Thank
answer
you, sir.
your question, Ramana?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay.
And
So,
one more thing, sir. You have talked about these behaviors, resistive, skeptic.
right.
Finally, we are looking for this co-creator.
Right, right.
The matrix which you have shown earlier in the
Right.
Yeah, wait and see, experimental co-creator. But see, sir, but what I feel is, sir, the way the parents bring up their children, it also influences the behavior and thinking of the children. Correct. So but generally, if you look at some of the Indian parents, what they say, they'll be more skeptic sort of thing. They say, okay, why should we take unnecessary risks? Let us wait and see how do we go. So I see only the first three register, skeptic, wait and see behavior in most of the parents, rather than the and less percentage will be towards the experimenter and the co-creator. So do you feel that this needs to be given to the parents so that they can influence their children to the positive side behavior?
You said it very well. It is very much required. It is very
Yes,
much
sir.
required. And there are some people already who are doing it. Some of my colleagues whom I know, some of the friends outside of my work, they have been kind of experimenter and wait and see. And it also depends on the culture. Okay.
Yes.
They normally push them, the parents push them to do certain things which the children don't like. So they are into that mode. So those things have to change. In those occasions, they are actually predominantly in these two. As you rightly said, they are in the resistor and skeptic, because they say that unless otherwise you finish off your course in Chaitanya and then go to IIT and then end up in the US, it's not going to work. You know, having been in Andhra Pradesh for 14 years, I know the culture there, right? So
Okay.
the children will find it extremely difficult, and they will not be able to come to the co-creator mode at all anytime, because they have been used to the resistor and the skeptic mode. It becomes difficult for the person who is trying to change them.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
You are right.
Okay, you can move forward.
Yeah, I'll
sir.
move forward. I thought these two were very heavy concepts. I wanted to clarify some and then move forward. From now on, it is going to be light from the angle of giving examples only.
Okay. Are there any assessment tools to check our own self where we are?
Yes, there are tools. They are all priced. These people have developed a set of tools called Catalyst tools, and they are priced for each one of them. There are about 6 or 7 tools which are there.
Okay.
And each one of them are priced independently and as a group also. And once we pay them, then we get a report. And then people who are certified can give a debrief on that. In India, there are 2 people certified. I am one person, and there is one more person in Jaipur. Both of us got certified in the last certification.
Okay.
So they have an assessment tool meant for this.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So let me go forward. So I'll put this framework here, but I'm not going to explain all of it here. I'm going to explain each one of them in the subsequent slides. But I'm putting it here only to highlight only one point. The verbs, what are used here, all the first letters will spell the word changes. Okay.
Okay.
So conversational intelligence is changing from the left extreme to the right extreme, from the resistor to the co-creator. So the entire framework is based on these changes, co-creation. So each of them have a different meaning, and I have given example conversations also. So each of these first words spells this. At this point in time, a small digression. This Judith Glaser has a fancy for putting a lot of her frameworks in acronyms, which mean something like this: set of words, but all the first letters will form one word, which also is very, very meaningful. You will see that as we go along. So co-creation, what does this mean? This is basically being open to influence. Okay, being open to influence and creating a V-centric framework. This V-centric framework is you and I will do it together. Okay, shifting from excluding to including. I know what I'm doing. I just want you to follow what I'm saying. There are a lot of times you have seen this being told by somebody to somebody else, or maybe to us. So that is excluding. I know what I'm doing. You just do what I'm telling you to do. From there, let us work together is including. How does the conversation look like? So the framework, as part of that, what we have been told or what we have been given is, say less of this and say more of this. When I use these words, I am at the left end of the spectrum of conversational dashboard. But when we are trying to use these words and these sentences, we are moving towards the right side of the spectrum. So let us look at it. I will let you know when I need you. You don't come and disturb me all the time. So instead of that, get that person inside. You also don't know, I also don't know. Whom can we ask for help for this? When a person comes and knocks the door and says, I want to help you, or what can we do, or he wants to come and discuss something, we say, get lost. But on the other hand, can we say something like this? So here, as I was telling in the beginning, just do as I told you. So instead of saying that, this is the job I want you to do, you decide how you will do it. Okay? Why don't you decide what you do? I will not tell you how you do it. I will tell you what I want. You decide how to do it. That is this. So giving the freedom of the method, the choice of the method is given to the other person. Here we say, you don't need to know. What you need to know, I have told you. You don't need to know anything more than that. Here, instead of saying that, what more would you like to know? What else can I share with you? So that the person doesn't fail, doesn't come back because he has less information to do the job. This is co-creating. The conversations have to change from this kind of sentences to this kind of sentences. I thought this is the best way to explain these things rather than talking about abstract concepts and the kind of framework what we were told. So I thought I will put some example conversations to make it easier for us to understand. So all the slides following will have the same framework. So I'll go through them as one by one. Maybe at the end of it, I will stop for a question answer. Then comes harmonizing, changes. The second letter is H, so harmonizing. Harmonizing is listening to connect. Listening to connect has a different addition to it. Listening to connect, not judge or not reject. That is the addition to that. So I listen to you only with the pure intention of understanding. I am not going to judge you from what you are saying. I am not going to reject what you are saying is wrong. Building partnership in the workplace, and from judging to appreciating. This is the second part. So here, if you look at it, the example words are, that was not good enough. That means we are judging them. You have fallen short of my expectation. So here, instead of saying that, I don't have the answers. What are your perspective on this? How can we find a common ground? Okay. I know you would falter. That means what? We have underestimated the person's capability. Instead of that, if we say, I know you have attempted it, Let us see what went wrong. So we are trying to sit together and find a solution. I know you are I mean, I have seen some leaders who say that, I don't know who gave you the engineering degree. How did you pass first class? You don't know this basic stuff. They all border on this side. An idiot could have figured out this. Okay, let us talk about how to do this better. So here the entire sentences are on judging. Here the sentences are to discover and appreciate, to go forward. Then comes aspiring. Aspiring is elevating the person's thinking to a next level. Asking questions for which we don't have answers. We don't know the answers, but let us find more. Let us find more by asking more questions. Okay, focusing on aspirations, shifting from limiting aspirations to expanding aspirations. What more can we do? How tall we can grow? How fast we can grow? These are the questions. You never have anything worthwhile to say. Whenever you say something, it is so bad. You always say rubbish. Instead of that, who has a dream or a wild idea to share? It doesn't matter what you are thinking about. No idea is a bad idea. Nothing is nonsense. Please share what you have. That is this. Instead of saying it can't be done, can we look at it from a different perspective? Let's not bite off more than what we can chew. Let's see what else emerges out of this thought process. What else can we do? That what else is actually the mantra. So this what else opens up a totally new set of arena. It's a new phase altogether. Then comes navigating. Having done aspiring, I know I have reached this top. How do I go all over the place? So this double clicking is taken from our computer terminology. This double clicking is nothing but asking more questions. Harvesting on the wisdom, getting to know from people who know it. Shifting from withholding to sharing. This is where a lot of these things come into picture. That's my job. Don't get into that. You know, you are not supposed to talk about my job. I'll take care of it. So here, instead of saying that, what can we do together to get a wow from the customer, to get a wow from the management? Instead of saying it's none of your business, what if we pool our resources to cut the cost? What else can we do? Okay. Then I don't trust you. Instead of saying that if we join forces, we will make it happen. Don't you think so? We are actually elevating that person to think like us, creating more of oxytocin rather than cortisol. All these left side things create cortisol. I will be talking about amygdala hijack down the line. That is, I'm sure you must have heard this word amygdala. It is the cortisol, and multiple times it has happened and it creates a negative feeling. We will talk about that as we go along. Then comes generating. Generating is priming for trust. This is basically fostering innovation, creating more new ideas, shifting from knowing mindset to discovering mindset. What is this knowing mindset? Knowing mindset is, I know this. I have done this before. What are you talking here? We have never done this before. How can it happen now? That is the kind of sentences we use. Instead of that, yes, we have not done it, but can we try a new way of doing it? Why did we not do it? Because of some limitation. Let us look at what the limitations are and see how can we remove them. That is the way we change the mindset from knowing mindset to a discovering mindset. So this does not belong here. As they call it as famously NIH syndrome, not invented here. This is not the way our organization works. Instead of saying that, what are the other people doing? How can we do it better? What is it that we can try out together? That is what we are talking about. It is a waste of time. Here we say, let us experiment and dare to try it. So that word dare to try is actually opening up a new arena. You have never done it yet. So let us look at this as an adventure. When you take an adventure, it is bound to fail or it is bound to succeed. It depends upon the luck, effort, all of them put together. So we are trying to experiment with that. Then comes expressing. It is conversational agility. We will talk about what is agility. It is creating a leadership voice, shifting from dictating to developing. It is actually talking about, don't say just do it. How do you feel about this? What else can we do? Let us talk about how to make it happen. So all these come under expressing. And then finally synchronizing, putting them all together, making them appear as integrated piece, single piece. Okay, that is what we are talking about, bringing all positive energy together. Okay, so our story is about the power of inspiration and innovation. And then we are blazing the path through the uncharted territory. Yes, we are bound to have problems, but we will go through it. Okay, our job is to challenge the status quo. Okay, this is one of the questions which is asked in Wipro quite often. Have you challenged the status quo? If so, what is it that you have achieved? What can we do better? Instead of saying just follow the rules, this is the way it happens here, just do what it is. It's like a government office. This is the procedure, this is the application form, fill it up, give it, it will happen. Instead of saying that, what else can be done? I mean, our job is to challenge the status quo. How else we can do it? So all these things put together form part of the changes framework. So basically what I described here is a set of phrases, sentences we use at various points in time in our work or in our personal life, which if we slightly shift the paradigm from one way of phrasing the sentence to another way of phrasing the sentence or forming the sentence, the whole paradigm changes. And then it creates a whole lot of new set of results. Let me go further because they all relate to the same point. So let me finish this and then wait there. So we want to, whatever is there on the left side, we have to down regulate them, that we have to avoid using those phrases, sentences, and those acts of leader, acts of all of us. So when you do this, what happens? We need to minimize conversations that trigger fear, power play, uncertainty, and groupthink. We remove all this by removing all these things. What does it mean? Excluding a person, judging a person, limiting the person's capability, withholding information, sharing knowledge or withholding knowledge, or say that I know it. Dictating terms. Just do this, don't even ask questions. Criticizing. I know you can't do this. You have never done it here before. What are you talking? I know I've been seeing you for last 1.5 years. You know why? That is why your appraisal was like that and you didn't get a promotion. Your batchmates have gone past you. What are you talking? That is this. So all this has to be down regulated. On the other hand, what are we supposed to do? We have to up regulate these things, which actually inspire transparency, demonstrate transparency, demonstrate understanding, creates a shared vision, creates a success and trust and empathy with the other person. All this basically involves including in our conversation, appreciating what they are doing, expanding the horizon, sharing what we know, discovering together, developing the other person, and celebrating success. All this becomes part of our conversation. We need to remember this and make sure that we are able to follow this. The next question is, how do I know what I'm doing? How do I know I am applying them or not? Here comes the self-awareness point. That is where a lot of things depend on this. I was talking about this amygdala threat. So going back, how do I regulate this? And if I don't regulate this, what happens? Amygdala threat happens. What does this amygdala threat involve? This threat, as I told you in the beginning, sometime this Judith Glaser is very fond of creating abbreviations which actually mean a lot. This threat is the word used. It is called as amygdala threat. What does this threat include? Threat includes the tone, humiliation, the act of humiliation, act of rejection, act of exclusion, the act of showing anger, holding the territoriality, then holding or demonstrating our status. All this in our conversation will create amygdala threat. Let me give an example. Assuming that there is a boss and he is talking to the team member, aa gaya. So you have brought a problem to me now? I know you would always come with that. You see the tone, you see the humiliation, that means this person comes always with the problem. So next time when he comes, we say, yeah, I know, here is a problem. I see the problem walking into my room. We use a lot of flowery language to tell the person that you are not invited here. What you are bringing is a problem. The third time, the person doesn't have to go to the boss's room. The person sees the boss crossing the hallway or crossing the work area. That fellow's cortisol will start off. He will actually not look at the boss into his eyes. He will probably hide behind the screen, or he will not even show up his face. That is the amygdala response. Okay, that is called as flight or fight or appease. What I explained is flight, which means he is going away. He is actually avoiding and withdrawing and disappearing from the site. Fight is, if that person is a little bit aggressive nature person, he will start fighting with the boss. So the relationship between the boss and the team member will become bad, and both of them will get more and more of cortisol, and they will start hating each other. Appease is actually something like a teddy bear. Yeah, sir, what to do? I came with the problem. I know you will give me a solution. Something like surrendering. That means that person has left his self-respect outside the room, and he is ready to be manipulated by the boss. And the boss also will take over the whole behavior pattern of this person. It has multiple dimensions there. So we need to be careful about what we are doing with respect to down-regulating, which creates the amygdala threat. And I just gave you the example of tone and humiliation. It can be in terms of rejection. How do we do rejection? We don't invite that person for the meeting, or we don't respond, we don't copy the person in the email. We have called for a meeting. That fellow is there in the room, but we are not asking him what he feels about. And if he starts saying something, we tell him, no, I'll come back to you later. Right now, we are discussing something more important. Basically telling him that what you are saying is not important, which is again humiliation. So there are a lot of people, I've seen that kind of behavior, rejection and exclusion and anger. And assuming that if you are in a CFT meeting, that is cross-functional team meeting, somebody says something, that this fellow says, no, that is IT domain. You are a person in quality, you don't even talk about this. You don't know what you are talking, forget about it. And that person will keep quiet after that. I'm sure all of us have gone through these kind of behaviors amongst the people. And the idea of bringing up some of these live examples is to show how we behave many a times involuntarily. Over a period of time, that behavior becomes our second nature. That becomes our persona. It becomes our personality in some sense. That should be avoided. Then there is something called ladder of conclusions. Okay. I know this person is coming. Last time he came with the problem. I know this person is coming with the problem, and I know he's going to say this. So what happens is we try to create whole lot of things, assumptions, our interpretations, meanings, all this create that we pass through this ladder of conclusion. And then we make a judgment and make a statement, and that statement results in all these things. So if we don't assume things, we listen to the person, understand. So I go back to the listening to connect rather than judge or reject. If we do that, we will not be climbing the ladder of conclusions. Many a times it happens at home, the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law syndrome. Okay, and a boss and a subordinate who is not getting along well with each other, the team member and the project manager not getting along well with each other. They always go through this ladder of conclusion, and that results in threat, amygdala threat, and that results in the whole lot of other things which are discussed already. So whenever we interact with people, vital instinct is forces. Again, another abbreviation. This forces actually expands to fairness. I will be fair with you, and I want to be treated with fairness. Let us take the ownership to do it together. I reciprocate the respect you show it to me, and you show me the same respect to me. Let us cooperate with each other. Let us be expressive on what we are doing. Let us not bother about the status. We are here together to work on it. So vital instinct for a fair, good conversation is forces. So maybe, I don't know how are we doing on time. I will probably stop here to take some questions if it is okay. Otherwise, I have something more to conclude. I can conclude and then we can take questions all together also. I leave it open.
We'll pause for a moment in case
Okay.
anyone
Okay.
comes up.
Sir Ramna here once again. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, Ramna,
Yes,
go
please.
ahead.
Sir, yeah, in the previous slides where you have shown where the transformation happens, especially about that, how do we, the conversation part which are shown with some examples.
Hmm.
Sir, my feeling is that most of the bosses, they may feel that it may be an exhibition of showing off their weaknesses if they go to the more positive things. Can you go back to the slides, sir? Just one minute.
Yeah. This one or the previous
No,
one?
sir, no, sir. The previous one. Yeah, say less of, say more of. Yeah.
Okay.
Here you have given so many examples here.
Right.
Okay. So a boss who says just do as I say, and if he wants to transform to how do you feel about this, or trying to build a synergy with this team.
Hmm.
So they may feel that more it's a show of their weaknesses, exhibition of their weaknesses rather than their authority. People may think that he may think that people will downgrade him and saying that this boss is not more authoritative or something like that.
Okay. Okay. Are you done, Ramana?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In fact, I beg to differ here. It's again
Okay.
based on experience and
So the practical, I'm
organization.
talking about the practical thing. So
Yes.
this
I'm coming there
transformation may
only.
not happen suddenly.
Yes. I'm coming there only.
Yes, sir. Yes.
What you are saying is natural and normal, and it happens in most of the workplaces.
Yes.
Let me say that first. Okay.
Yes, correct, sir.
There is no denying of the fact what you are saying. Absolutely true, and it happens. Okay. But because it is happening, we don't have to accept it as the right practice. That is my philosophy. Okay. Let me tell you some generic response to this question, and then I'll give you my personal experience also. The generic response is, you are right, it happens, and we have to change this, and it has to be changed in the culture. So the paradigm is, in such situations, what happens is the people work with that particular leader only for that project, or as long as the relationship exists, they are there, and after the transactions between them is over, there is no other binding or no other relationship with them. Even if they meet in the corridor or in the coffee machine or in the canteen, they probably even say hi sometimes, or they don't even say hi. The relationship will be of that type. But there are some bosses who maintain a good relationship, who go to the other extreme, the right side of the whole thing, whatever we spoke about, and they are remembered, they are talked to, and they are still in touch, even if they are in the organization or outside the organization. Now, I actually want to bring up a case of Dr. Abdul Kalam, who talked about how to develop leaders, and he has written volumes about it, and he has demonstrated it in his own behavior right through. And all of us, I take an example of that nature because all of us know about him and have appreciated him or seen him in some form or the other exhibiting some of these things. As a president, he doesn't have to say to the Sipai who is in the guard vehicle in front, calling him and say that, I know you have to stand to safeguard me for the whole journey of 3 hours. Please go and take some rest, and then gave him some packet of food. And then shaking hands with him was not warranted of a president, but he still did that. And that's what we are talking today. And he was also a known leader. And he said he'll remain in our mind for at least a few decades from now. Everybody will talk about it. So we are talking about the transformational type of leaders. Sam Pitroda, for example, where I have worked with him very personally. For 6 years, I worked with him. A lot of my traits I picked up from him. When we were about 4 years experienced, he gave us a project which probably was something like 2.5 crores. And he said, you decide what you want to do. You come and tell me what you are going to do. When we went and told him, this is what we have done. And then he said, no, this has to be looked at. Have you looked at all the possibilities? And he asked some of these questions. Now I'm able to relate to, but what he asked were in the right side of the spectrum. So it is those leaders whom we remember. And coming to the last example, personal example, I have practiced this right side to a large extent. What you say is true. People think that you are weak. There will be a period they think you are weak. There is a small dip in the respect level. They think, oh, the BKM doesn't know this. Hey, BKM, he was asking about this. Yeah, they'll be talking in the cafeteria. Okay. Over a period of time, when they come up with solutions, you add value and you show your self-confidence of executing that once, twice, thrice, then you stand taller. And they come to you even if it is not an official problem, personal problem. I have left Wipro 10 years back. I still have a lot of people reaching out to me for ideas, suggestions, or very important occasions in their family. We are still in touch. So that leader has to be ready to go through that journey of a small dip in terms of exhibiting his resilience to some of these things. If that person is not ready, then there is a problem. I am done, Ramana.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thanks for the clarification.
Yes. So let me go on.
Yeah.
So conversational essentials, this is where we left. So I will take it from the conversational blind spots. A lot of us have any one of these things or multiple. Yes, madam.
Sir, when we're talking about these changes, is it a framework that we start from co-creating, harmonizing, aspiring? Is it a circle, like we start from co-creating and then we come to synchrony? Is it a incremental change?
Sequential. It is not sequential. It is not sequential. We can go back and forth between them.
Okay.
The idea is to give some framework for us to understand. Sometimes we'll be synchronizing, sometimes we'll be actually expressing, sometimes we'll be generating. With different people, we may be in different shapes, different faces actually.
Okay.
And we may be doing it in different shapes and shades.
Okay.
That is fine. But as long as we understand this abbreviation and the framework is given for us to easily remember it.
Remember. Okay.
It is more of a formula, I can say.
Okay.
Right?
I got it. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be applied in sequence. Okay. All of us have something called these 5 blind spots. One or more of them will be there with most of us. Unless otherwise we recognize and remove them, it is very difficult. So first one is assuming that everyone thinks like me. Okay. So this happens with people at home most of the times, because we tell our wife or spouse saying that, husband saying that this is what I'm telling, because we have a movie running in our mind. We have a set of things which are running in our mind. 80% of it is known to the other person, but there is still 20% not known to the other person, which we forget. And we expect the reaction thinking that they know the 100%, but which is not true. So this is a major blind spot for most of us. We are engrossed in our own self world, not realizing the other person's point of view, not realizing that the other person doesn't have 100% information what I have. This is the first blind spot. The second thing is feelings don't change my reality. It doesn't matter what you think, I am right because I am the boss. The third one is I can still empathize when I am in fear. That means we are not understanding the other person's feelings. We are not understanding the other person's situation, and we actually dominate that person. Okay. And then pour over them completely. Then comes, I remember, therefore I know. If you see some people, when they come for a meeting, they come without a notebook. I get actually wild. Nobody can remember all the points discussed in a meeting and then execute them. And nobody can remember all the points which are spoken. Nobody can understand all the points that are spoken. If you don't ask a question, it means that either the communication was 100% complete or the person has not understood half of it and does not want to ask any questions. So the point is understand the other person. That is, active listening is required. So what happens most of the times is they think and internally listen and then complete the conversation and put that jigsaw puzzle in their own mind, which is not correct. And then the last one is I'm listening, so I actually know what you want to mean, and I ask a question. The person is actually starting a question or starting a statement. Before even he comes to halfway through, I interrupt him and say, I know what you're saying. Let me tell you this answer for this. That is what we do most of the times. And there is another variation of this behavior. We complete the other person's sentence. We put the words in their mouth. We put the words to fill in that sentence, which is actually a bad behavior, because we are actually losing a golden opportunity to listen what he says. Why do I say this? The choice of word used by the other person gives the mindset of the person. Let me give an example. We are not doing this because we are facing challenges. We are not doing this because we have faced a lot of issues. What do you think is different in between these two sentences? I am asking. We are not doing it because we are facing a lot of challenges. We are not doing it because we have a lot of problems with other teams. We are not able to do it. We have hit a roadblock. Somebody says this. So what does that conversation indicate to us about that person?
I think in the second sentence, he also concludes for others. Something
Exactly.
Like
Exactly. There's a judgment.
yeah.
Beautiful. There's a judgment. First part. Second part is he's saying there's a problem, and he thinks he's the messiah of all sorts of things, and then he's trying to give a judgment, passing aspirations on others. The first one, we are facing challenges. The word is also we and challenges. Challenges is a little more professional than problems. We are hitting roadblocks. It's because of them. That is the way we understand people. So it is very, very important for us to allow the other person to finish the words, the sentences, and then respond properly. It is very, very essential. Then we talk about conversational agility. This is another place where I wanted to give examples. It is extremely useful. This is what we use in coaching. When I'm doing coaching, I use these techniques quite a bit. First thing is called reframing. There are three things: reframing, refocusing, and redirecting. There are three concepts. Reframing helps to convert a challenge to an opportunity. Okay, it helps us to look at the problem as an opportunity. It enables to building trust and common ground. See, today COVID, we are all stuck. When there was a lockdown, initially there was a problem. It always follows this whole cycle of change management. There is always this denial, anger, and all these things. And towards the end, there is an acceptance and then positivity. So during the COVID time, the initial lockdown phases, everybody was stuck. There was a lot of negativity. Yes, there was. But again, then people started slowly looking at positive things. Yeah, I'm able to spend time with family. I'm able to work from home. I never thought working from home was possible for my job, my role. Now I'm able to do it. I'm able to get more time with my family. I'm able to do all these things, which I was not able to do before. So people started looking at positively. That is actually reframing. Okay. In reframing, when somebody is making statements like this, I don't know why so many mistakes are there. There is a fear, self-pity, rejection, all that happens. All this cortisol related stuff. How do we make that into a oxytocin stuff? Here we talk about self-worth, trust, and openness. Then comes refocusing, elevating the people to think from a different perspective. In fact, there is a person called William Ury. William U-R-Y, William Ury. He is an expert on negotiation techniques, and he talks about this particular concept as going to the balcony. We are fighting in the corridor, we are fighting in the porch, we are fighting in the reception area, okay, the ground floor. If one of us go to the first floor and see from there, from the balcony, we are going to see the whole picture. So refocusing elevates the people to think from their current place to a different location, okay? Points to a larger context. Why are we fighting this? What are we trying to achieve? What is the end goal we want to achieve? The moment you change the paradigm, the solution changes. So if you are interested, you can actually look at a book, ebook, which is actually downloadable. He talks about, this book is called, titled as Getting to Yes. The book itself is titled as Getting to Yes, Y-E-S, Getting to Yes. This is available as a download. I think it's about 99 pages. He talks about a lot of techniques on negotiation, but again, it is actually making us to refocus our conversation. There are some YouTube videos also about William Ury. You can actually look at it. This is the same concept what Alvin Toffler calls it as the third alternative. The person who wrote the book Future Shock, he talks about this as the third alternative. There is one side, which is your side, my side, and there is a third side. That is the third alternative. Refocusing is about finding the third alternative in every situation. Then comes redirecting. Redirecting our energy from getting wasted to getting energized, getting used, getting better, getting productive. Okay, so turning difficult situation into an opportunity. Okay, helps to find a common ground. Can we try out the following, which was attempted by someone? I know this. We have tried this before. So here we are talking about sharing some insights from elsewhere. Somebody did this. Okay, so we are trying to find a solution from some proven success points and trying to take the best from anywhere. So that is the redirecting situation. So this is called conversational agility. Whenever we are stuck with a conversation where neither party is able to move forward, we can use one of these three techniques: reframing, refocusing, or redirecting. We need to understand the situation. It requires us to take a deep breath. Are we stuck? First question to ask is, are we stuck? If the answer is yes, why? The moment I know the reason why, then I can do this. If I don't know we are stuck, and if I don't know why we are stuck, we can't do this. So before we start, we need to be clear with these two answers. Then we elevate ourselves to the next stage and do one of these three things: reframing, refocusing, and redirecting. And there are some more sample tools. I think we are towards the end of the session, and I will open it out for questions. You can ask me any of them. So she is using a lot of framework. One is called Discover. This is for self-development. We discover what I am today. I am talking about the right side. Discover who I am, what I am doing right, what I'm not doing right. Then revision myself. Not revision, revision what I want to be. This is as is. The second one is to be. So from as is, how do I move from as is to be situation, for which I need to innovate. Innovate is nothing but finding new solutions. Reframing, refocusing my energies, rediscovering myself, and then validate what I am doing is right, which means over a period of time, let us say 10 days, I try this and see whether it works or not. I go back and correct it in the drawing board, I retry. Then I discover whether it is okay or not. I keep doing that by energizing myself to it. So this is called a drive. This is a self-coaching tool. Then there is something called as learn framework. What do you like about this? Whatever we are doing, what do you like about this? What are you excited about what we are doing? What makes you to be anxious, whether it will work or not work? What is making me to be holding back? And then how may you reframe this? How can I reframe this or refocus this or redirect this? And then share your needs. This is what I want. In any conversation, we can use this framework. And this is generally for overall development. I think that is what I have to share with you. I think I almost completed it on time. I hope, Srinivasan, that 90 minutes, including the introduction and all that. So I am open for question answer now. We have next half an hour. Thank you very much for listening to me, but it was rediscovering myself, sharing, and it was a revision for me for a certification which I went through in preparing as well as in doing this. I have given a similar session on 2 occasions. One is among my coaches from the Coaching Foundation of India, from all over the country. There were about 35 people who went through this, in which I actually compared this methodology with another methodology called Gerard Egan's method, where we were trained and certified. So that session was more on comparing and contrasting those 2 models. Yet another forum was the Entrepreneurs Forum, where I wanted to give a glimpse of it, which was less than about 6 slides or 7 slides and not more than 20 minutes of session. It was like an overview session. This is pretty much the longest session I have given with so much of detail. And I must thank Srinivasan and ProVentures for giving me this opportunity to share with all of you. I enjoyed preparing for this and sharing this. So I'm open for questions now.
Thank you, BKM sir. I think 16 months of preparation, learning, and certification compressing into 90 minutes is not a easy task with the Q&A and all. And yeah, I think as we go through only, I recognized, or when I did my introspection, I could see different areas of my own flaws. And definitely it is a session which I think we have to slide by slide pause and then introspect, do some kind of introspection. I'm sure it will help each of us. And yeah, so let's open it for some questions. Anything, I think whatever you feel like you can ask, because BKM is a person down to earth. If he says, if he knows, he will say yes. If you don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I don't know the answer, it's absolutely no problem for me. I will come back to you through a mail, which I will send it to Srinivasan and he can share it with you. I mean, I believe in this. Not everybody can know everything in the world. And I don't want to act as though I know it. If I don't know, I'll say I don't know. As simple as that.
Yeah, and BKM is a person of tremendous learning. And so we at Provinces would like, he's also an empaneled speaker come trainer within Provinces. So in the month of September, we are actually trying to come up with a selected pick of leadership topics and then bundle it together as a virtual, a long kind of a training come coaching session. So in which I believe this also will figure out as one of the topic. So we'll actually come back to all of you about it as we go down the line. But maybe now, I think 19:30 now. So we have a good 20 minutes. Those who have not asked any questions, you can ask. I think one of the participants asked a question. Who authored this third alternative? As he answers others, either you can unmute and then speak, or you can also type it in the chat box, and then either me or Ratna will take it up with BKM.
Yeah, that book, I remember it as Alvin Toffler. If I remember right, it is Alvin Toffler, is what I remember.
Okay.
But it could also be Stephen Covey. I don't remember it exactly. It is either Alvin Toffler or Stephen Covey.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
Sir, we have one question from Mr. Joseph Daniel. In conversational agility, reframing and redirecting almost seems the same. Any examples that you can share?
Okay. So we have the example here itself. See, refocusing, redirecting and refocusing, you are saying, right?
Reframing and redirecting, yeah.
Right. Reframing is within the same context, we are reframing. There is a fixed context. In that fixed context, we are changing the way we look at the things. That is reframing. Redirecting is finding a new path from the current location. So at a broad level, reframing is I am on a fixed location and I am on a fixed set of things. So given this scenario, we have to go through this process. We have to complete this project within this time. You tell me how to make it happen. Okay, that is the reframing part. Redirecting is, yeah, this is the specification the client is looking for. What all technologies will fit into this? What all can we do? Are there available solutions elsewhere which we can fit into our framework? We develop something and then we bring in something else from outside and put that together as a solution. So that is redirecting. Redirecting is bringing out from somewhere and then taking stock of things and doing further. Reframing is, given that context, how do you look at it from different perspectives?
All right, thank you so much, sir. So any further questions?
You please help me out with chat questions. I am not opening the chat window because I may have to go to the, I am not stopping the sharing.
Yeah.
Because I need to go back to the slides in case required.
Yes.
Sir, Ramana here.
Yes, Ramana.
So which part of the brain addresses the resilience trait?
Yeah, good question. I think it is still prefrontal cortex. Lot of positive things come from the prefrontal PFC, that the front portion, the forehead up to the top of the head. Okay. starting from the beginning of eyes, between the two eyes, that bridge between the two eyes to somewhere at the top of the brain. That, what should I say, quarter circle or something like that, that part of the brain is what addresses most of leadership positive behaviors, and they generate all the necessary characteristics in the person. This is an area which is actually picking up a lot of interest among the people now. So this interdisciplinary research on the neurochemical reactions and management and leadership behavior has caught up a lot after this particular lady she did almost like 40 years of work. And she was like a walking encyclopedia on this topic. You ask any question, she will tell 4 names of people who are working in some part of the world and then talk about their world of research and then give direct examples and show it. So that is what it is. Hope I answered your question, Ramana. Before I go to the next question, I will also tell you some anecdotes about this course. Did I answer your question, Ramana?
Yes, sir. But still, I have one supplementary question, if you can call it.
Yeah.
So the resilience behavior exhibited by the top leaders. So that indicates that they need to get things done at any cost. So that is one of the characteristic of the resilience, what they exhibit. But at the same time, it may lead to pressurizing some other team members and other things, and that may generate some cortisol in the other team members also.
Actually, the way the resilience I understand and it is defined is resilience is ability to tackle adversity, ability to tackle risk and crisis in the office and workplace, and able to bounce back with more velocity or with same velocity, or at least come back to the same place and then go forward. That is resilience. Correct?
Yes, sir.
If that is the way we define it, it requires us to work with everybody. It requires us not necessarily to force them to do certain things.
Okay.
Even if you have to force people to do certain things, there are ways of doing it. I will give you a couple of examples, at least from whatever I know. Let us say take a crisis which we go through every time. For example, let us say monsoon floods in Orissa or Nagapattinam in Tamil Nadu, or let's say in Mangalore. All port towns will have this problem, sea-facing situations. So whenever there is a monsoon and there is going to be a huge rain and things like that, there is a document which says this has to be done, and during those occasions, the collector of the district will become the chief executive officer. Everybody will work under him. So at that time, he is going to actually say that we are going to do all these things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is a blue book everybody refers to. There is a standard operating procedure. He actually calls for a meeting, do this, that, and then the job is done. In case there is a huge calamity coming in and they have warning for that, he is not going to only give directions. He is going to ask them, this is the scenario, how are we going to address it? Okay, he is going to ask the police, he is going to ask the fire service, he is going to ask for the rapid action force or whoever is coming, disaster recovery management people will come there. They will all talk about it and find out solutions for it and then make it happen. I'll take a national level example. When the COVID came in, Prime Minister was leading it, everybody was aware of it. If you really see the way they prepared the railway coaches for doubling up as a hospital bed, in what they have converted Andhra, the transport buses into testing centers, mobile testing centers. This is a crisis. They have resilience. The leaders have resilience. They have come up with, it is unimaginable. Nobody in the world has done conversion of a railway compartment into a COVID ward.
Isolation coaches,
Isolation coaches. Imagine this, right? Somebody thought about it and somebody has kindled them to think about it. You go back to this co-creation, the changes framework, somebody has adopted this there, knowingly or unknowingly. And I had a look at the bus picture of a bus which came in, I think, headline yesterday, the print page of a newspaper yesterday. Andhra Pradesh has come up with that, whether it was Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, I don't know. They have got a staircase right in front of the bus, by the side of the bus, and you have some 5, 6 counters there.
Yes, yes.
And it is also providing social distancing. You can climb up and climb down, and the bus can go to any other place, and
Correct.
put these things foldable inside the bus and then keep going. You can go to any nook and corner of the city. I mean, nook and corner of the village also. This is again co-creation. This is again unusual thinking, right? This is what is resilience all about. This is prefrontal cortex.
Thank you, sir. If not out of context, I hope you have heard about the Resilient Corporation in New Zealand. There is one company.
Please go ahead. I may not know this fully.
No, actually, I heard in one of the webinars, they conduct some assessments on the resilience of the teams or the organization.
Okay.
So they give some structured questionnaire, or they have their own methodology.
Oh, very nice.
And they will form a framework. They will give a scorecard based more of the liabilities versus assets, it seems.
Okay. Okay.
And they have even given some national averages, sir. I think you can go to the website and see.
I will do that. I will definitely do that. But I am aware of this something called as adversity quotient. I'm actually working on doing some book in which I am talking about this adversity quotient of an individual. Okay. Adversity quotient, how well we are able to deal with an adversity when we face it, whether it is in personal life or professional life.
Okay.
And how a leader exhibits this in the workplace. Adversity quotient, like intelligent quotient, emotional quotient, adversity quotient. Okay, it will also boil down to measuring the resilience in some sense.
Okay, sir. From my side, it is done.
Done. Okay, thank you, thank you. Any other questions, please? That was a very good question, Ramana. It made me to think and give you the examples. So I am also happy to have thought of those examples, because your question kindled me that thought. So that was your co-creation in a way.
Became, sir.
Yes,
Yeah,
myself is Abdul Samad.
Go ahead.
Wonderful recap. Myself being a certified coach by Coaching Federation of US. So I've gone through about 12 to 16 weeks of this kind of a training, the dance of insight and all the concepts. I think it is a wonderful recap. Just a quick question on this one. You are talking about PFC. In the opening session, actually they used to do some exercise, just if you have any dilemma or something. This is a standard exercise they used to perform during the entire coaching session. So there is, they say, actually all the the present dilemmas will be stored in PFC. And so there is an exercise how to put your priorities or something. They used to teach us some kind of exercise so that you can focus on this training program.
Right.
So you have been talking about so many, actually the long-term process in PFC. Is there a conflict? No, actually, I don't know, because my takeaway during the session was PFC is completely meant for the current dilemmas, which will be lasting for days or weeks only. Did you get my question, sir?
No, I understand your question to a large extent. Let me answer it to the level I understood. But again, if I have not answered your question fully, maybe we have to discuss further, or maybe I have to refer to something and come back to you. This PFC is the one, I'm not very sure about the long-term, short-term thought process around that. But PFC is the one which guides our behavior over a period of time, and it creates the positivity among the people. So when we say top of our mind, it is the top of the mind. It is that place where you actually referred that, right?
Yeah.
So top of the mind. But it doesn't mean that the deeper inside, whatever is there, is not relevant or is not to be worked on. Top of the mind is now and here syndrome, whereas there are certain inbuilt behavior which we practice over a period of time that remains there, and that we exercise over a period of time as and when required. That is what is the understanding I have on this. I don't know whether I answered your question or not, but I just gave my understanding of the whole thing.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
I really appreciate. Actually, it's a wonderful opportunity for me to get a total recap on the art of questioning. Really talk about the art of questioning. It's a wonderful session.
Thank
Thanks
you.
to
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Srinivasan as well. And the book, Third Alternative, it's by Stephen Covey.
Stephen, yeah, that's what I had a doubt. Alvin
Yeah,
Toffler was a different book.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
why when I answered that question for the second time, I brought in the Stephen Covey's name.
yeah, yeah.
I was
Stephen
not
Covey.
sure. I'm sorry about that.
No issues, no issues. Stephen
Yeah,
Covey.
yeah. Yes, Srinivasan sir, you had a point to make, I think. You had something to ask.
No, just to curious to know. So we see this phenomena of more on the left side rather than the right side, are a mixture of both in everyone. Suppose if we want to modify the behavior towards right side, the co-creation side, how do we go forward, like in terms of changing that behavior at the individual, maybe team, and at the even at the org level? How we should, what kind of approach we should adopt or we should suggest?
Okay. So two different approaches are done for the individual to change as well as the team to change. We can apply these techniques for both individual or at the group level. Your guess was right. Okay, it can be applied for both the individual and the group. So if we are talking about the individual, then we need to actually see the person. It goes like a cycle. It goes little longer than a few weeks, sometimes months, provided that person is interested to do it. So we observe the person in conversation, in operation with the rest of the team and with some people. That is the observation part. Then we also do some questionnaire and instruments to assess the person's some of the capabilities or competencies, put them together, and then do a 360 also. 360 degree also we do for that leader with the supervisor, peers, and the team members. Put these three things together to arrive at the personality of the individual with respect to conversations. And then we figure out in the spectrum where does he fall in. Then we share that information with the person and discuss with them openly to say that where they are and make them to come forward with their thought process. Most of the people will say, I am at the right extreme. I am a co-creator. What are you talking about? While actually he may be a resistor. His team, his 360 will say he is a resistor, whereas his own self-assessment will be he is a co-creator or an experimenter. Everybody wants to think like that. So we need to face the reality, and there will be some amount of denial, fear, anger, everything will be there. We have to go through that process. And then once that person agrees that he is somewhere else and he is willing to shift, then we have to, from all these reports, we cull out some 5-6 points and then start telling him to change his terminology, change the way he speaks, look at his vocabulary and body language. All of that has to be looked at. And then take 1 or 2 points every month and then make a development, go to the next stage, make a development, go to the next stage, put some metrics along the way to see how the person is traveling the goal line. This is what is done for the individual.
Okay.
It's about 6 to 8 months sometimes.
Yeah.
It can take that long. Sometimes the biggest problem is that they will do all these things because they are reporting to you that their progress is happening. There is a danger that they will go back to their old method very quickly. They will not wait. Okay. They'll very quickly, the moment the program is over and the management review is done and he has done his job and you have said, yes, he has achieved it. After 2 months, if you check with people, they'll say, yeah, he's the same old fellow.
So it should be more voluntary at the individual level.
Yes, that is first thing. Yes, first thing is that. Second thing is, for the problem what I mentioned just now, we call it as something called as relapse prevention. In English, we call it as relapse prevention. Going back to the same habit has to be stopped. In Japanese terminology, we call it as pokioke. We are not making it foolproof, we are making it idiot proof. Okay, so in such situations, what we do is we get hold of some 2 or 3 people who are interacting with that leader and tell him, look, he has changed. He is not going to use such kind of words. And it's a common meeting with all the people. And these 3 or 4 people will act as a conscience keeper for that leader. The moment he draws back to his old behavior, somebody will point out to him, nudge him. They may not come and tell him, but they may send a message, very gentle message. We devise some, symbols or, characters or something like that, which says that this is the behavior he's exhibiting, which he is not supposed to. In a very subtle manner, in a graphic way, somebody indicates to him and then he realizes it and he goes back. So there is a mechanism to balance this behavioral backtracking.
Okay.
If it is for a team, then we do it like a workshop. So here it is slightly different. It will be a little less lengthy. We do a first workshop where we educate them on overall framework and things like that. This is one model. And then we make them to go through this co-creation aspiration. There we go in a sequential manner. The changes framework will go in a sequential manner because you are in a team. So we give a breakout session, they come back, then we do this, and then we give another breakout session, they come back. So you do like a workshop for, let's say, 2 or 3 days in an offsite, depending upon the time available, maybe 2 days. And then we arrive at what is it that we will do next. Then each one will take an action item. They will have their metrics. They will have their KPIs. They go back and then we do a review at the end of 1 month, at the end of 2nd month. The moment they cross that 90 days threshold, we say that fine, you are on autopilot, you track it yourself. Your management review will take care of it. As a consultant, we can walk out.
Okay. Now in big organizations, is it like, can we create some kind of a change champions and then only for them you do, and then later it becomes a self-sustained, it again propagates in its own way so that the whole organization transforms over a period of time, something like that?
Yes, it is possible, provided there is a big catch there, provided if it is a owner-driven organization, let's say if it is an entrepreneurial organization, let's say a small or mid organization, it is predominantly owner-driven but professionally managed. The owner or the founder has to have a sign-off and he has to give a free hand to the people to work on it. And he should be visibly supporting them. If it is a corporate, then there has to be a sign-off from the CEO or the CMD, whoever is the number one. He should have endorsed this. He should have given the message to the team and he should be part of the kickoff meeting. And he has to commit to review this every quarter in terms of the progress. And he makes it a point to review the change champions on their achievement. If that commitment is there from the top boss, then it is possible to do this workshop, drive it for 3 months as a hand-holding and leave it up to them. That is possible.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Sir, we have one question. Yeah, sir.
Yes, please.
Yeah. One question from Mr. Joseph Daniel. How is conversational IQ methodology or framework different from KATA and change management techniques?
What does this KATA stand for?
KATA he has given.
So what does that stand for? He can actually unmute and answer that.
Actually, like he will not be able to talk, it seems. That's why he has mentioned.
Can he
Or
type out what it is?
I will ask him. I will ask him what does it mean.
See, I am also certified on change management, but I have not heard this KATA. That is the reason I wanted to know what it is.
Right.
Now go ahead with the next point, please.
All right. Okay, let him come back with the definition, sir, and we will answer.
Yes, let him come back. I will answer it. You have anything else, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It is from Mr. Manoj. Being reframing or rephrasing, important part of conversation. Any specific technique you suggest, especially when senior most management people are present?
Okay. Manoj, if you are talking about reframing and refocusing, if the senior management is open and receptive, then it is possible to reframe, refocus, or redirect. If they are, I tell you, you do syndrome, then the person who is doing it will become noted, quote unquote, and he will be branded as rebel, or it will be difficult for him to navigate through the channels of promotions and increments and all that. It depends upon the organization. If they are open you can always do it. There's a polite way of doing it. If they are open, we can always raise a hand and then say that I have a point, can I share this with? Then you take the permission and go ahead and explain it. That is the easiest way, actually. But while doing this, a very, very important point is, if you are jumping the management levels, assuming that you are a team member and your boss is also there and the super boss is there, and you want to make a point there, we have to also look at our current immediate boss and look at him, and I tell him that I'm going to actually present something. Hope it is okay. And you can always say that I have not discussed this with him. It occurred to me now, and I'm sharing this, so that the boss doesn't think that you are holding something in your pocket and then opening it out in front of other people to impress them. So we have to balance this act in a very tactful manner, so that it doesn't appear that we are jumping the gun, jumping the hierarchy, and showing off. Okay, so it has to be done very delicately, but it is possible to do provided the top management is open. I answered very long, but I am actually coming from the practical way the organizations are run today. So I'm saying from that perspective.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. I hope it answered the question, Mr. Manoj.
Yeah, he can ask me. Manoj can type in more questions if required.
Yeah. Mr. Joseph has explained the term kata. He says that it is Toyota kata is a structured and focused approach to create a continuous learning and improvement culture. Kata is a skill building process to shift our mindset and habits from a natural tendency to jump to conclusions to a tendency to think and work more scientifically. So
Okay.
that is the meaning of
Okay,
kata.
okay.
So
Yeah,
now,
okay. Now I
going-
understand what he's talking about. It is
Yeah,
something
right,
like TQM. It is something similar to TQM, but that is more of process orientation. And if I understand it right, it is connected with more of manufacturing and process orientation than pure conversations and behavior. Because Japanese methods predominantly address process issues and manufacturing scenarios. Here we are talking about leadership behavior and leadership traits. So to my knowledge, it relates to manufacturing processes and improvement of processes with an open mind. That is what I think, but I can actually refer and come back if there is something different.
all right, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah, any more questions from anyone? Yeah, Mr. Joseph Daniel said it's okay. Thank you.
Sir, I have shared that link for that resilience.
I
think it is in the chat box, sir. You can please verify that.
It is in the chat box, is it?
Yes. Sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will
HTTP.
we'll actually compile it and then send it to you, BKM sir.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Even the feedback I would like to know so that I can improve on my presentation. In fact, this is the first presentation I have given a longer presentation, as I told you in the beginning. This is the first presentation I gave a longer version. So I would like to know where I should change, improve, and make it better and sound little more palatable for people. So I would be very happy to know and then correct myself. Before, if there are no questions, I would like to take a couple of minutes to explain the process. I know it is 9:56. I'll take about a minute or two. See, this course was running for about 16, 17 months, as I said, and there was 1 month of gap in between, which I did not count during the demise of Judith Glaser, which happened in 2018 December. Last year, September is when I got certification. This course was split into 4 weekly modules. Each weekly module would run for 2 hours. Sessions were for 2 hours on a webinar. And every Tuesday, first Tuesday would be the session by the faculty member, which is Judith Glaser. The second week would be on question answers, where we ask questions about the session which concluded. And the third session, that is on the third Saturday of the month, would be what we call it as internalizing, or they call it as embodiment of that particular competency or of the conversational intelligence, where they will give case studies, they will give panel discussions, etc. And the last week will be bringing in people who have used them, and then the live people from Sony Corporation, or let us say Amazon, would come there and talk about how they did it, how they changed themselves. So there was a complete scenario being built over a period of time, on a weekly basis, monthly basis. And in between, we were also asked to do a lot of reading and self assessment, introspection, and things like that. And we were asked to download a lot of material. As I said, the material itself will be something like 2.5 feet. So it was overwhelming to look at what is there, what is not there, what we are going through on a week-on-week basis. So it was like full-fledged, double MBA being done during that period. I enjoyed the entire learning process, and it made me to think very differently. I just thought I should share this part with all of you. Having listened to so much, you should know what has gone into this.
All right, thank
Sir,
you.
one last question, sir. One last
Yes.
question, sir.
Yes.
So in this, they're talking about the science, the neurochemical science and other the brain anatomy. So to what extent that was limited to the physiological terms, as far as the
They give you the terms, they don't ask you to remember it, they don't want you to memorize it or any
no,
such thing.
the context is you said you have downloaded a lot of material.
Huh.
So was it related to anything about the medicinal aspects, or it's only about
No,
the
it's all behavioral.
general
All of them
behavioral?
connected
Okay.
with behavioral.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay.
Behavioral connected to the brain, and they just say that oxytocin, that's all, nothing more than that. And you don't have to understand more. They have even called neurosurgeons to come and talk, but they all talk about the behavioral aspects of the brain. They don't talk about the anatomy part.
Okay.
That was not relevant or required so much for this. If you are interested, you can always go through them, but that was not a must for this.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Right. In conclusion, I would like to thank Mr. Srinivasan sir once again, and then to the entire team of ProVentures people there. I forgot your name, madam who was talking. I didn't get her name.
Yes, sir. Ratna here.
Ratna, thank you very much for navigating us through the entire process. With your help, I was able to actually see the participants and see their questions as well. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the audience who are there, making me to go through this journey with you. Anytime you can reach out to me through Mr. Srinivasan, and I'll be too happy to answer questions or interact with you on this topic or any other topic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Srinivasan sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed a very nice session, and all the participants have enjoyed. So, any more questions? Last question.
So I wanted to know what was the cost of that program that you attended on CIG, sir?
This is about $8,000.
Oh my God. Okay.
So I took special permission to pay it in installments.
Okay.
So I'm talking about 2017-18 time frame. So I paid it in 5 installments, I think. I specifically requested for it. They gave actually 2 installments or 3 installments. I don't remember. I said I can pay only in 5 or 6. I asked for actually 6, but they said 5 installments is what they can offer maximum. So I started paying through the credit card payment. They wanted the credit card to be given to them, and then the auto debit was there. So I went through that in that manner. And now I don't know how much they are charging. They have not announced a batch yet. There are about 130 people worldwide certified on this. And in India, I'm the second. As I said, Jaipur and I, there is a person in Jaipur and I am here. So there are 2 people certified on this.
It was a wonderful session, sir. A lot of insights. I've been listening about reframing in NLP, but here it is completely different. Reframing, refocusing, and redirecting.
Okay.
Very, very nice session. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, welcome. It's my pleasure, and I'm happy that I'm able to share so much. I mean, getting engaged intellectually is always nice.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Sir. Thank
Thanks
you so
to
much.
everybody.
Thank you so much, sir.
I request all the participants to give your feedback. So whoever has not submitted.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Srinivasan sir, thank you very much once again.
All right, I think you must be very tired.
Not
in fact,
really.
just for the information of others, he just finished a long a PhD interview with a big panel of 30 people for more than 2 or 2.5 hours. So soon after that interview, he need to pitch into this session. So and that shows his passion in teaching others. So thank you so much, BKM
Welcome.
sir. I
Welcome.
think you can probably log out and then take rest.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
deserve
I will
a
do that.
good
Thank you very
rest.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All
Thank
others,
you very much,
please.
BKM sir.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Have a good
Bye, sir.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All others, please leave your feedback. That will really help us to choose the right topics and then choose the right people. And your feedback makes us to grow and mature in this field. Thank you once again on behalf of Provenches. I would like to thank each and every one of you to have taken 2 precious hours of your time to attend this session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Srinivasan sir, for connecting us to such a beautiful topic. Thank you so much.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank you.